Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Or good evening. Good evening, Sephora. Summer came back to New Zealand. Yay! Good morning, Sue, from a very windy Sunderland. Yes, it's a little bit windy down in the south here, but not too bad. It's wet. It's rainy. It's a bit miserable. But, it's January. What do you expect? Good morning, Melanie. As always, if you are watching, do please pop a hello in the comments and we will see where it takes us today. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning. Today should be an interesting one, she says, hopefully. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Luna. Lots of lovely people here. Wow, lots of lovely people here already. I just looked at the numbers. Thank you. Good morning, Emma. Good morning. So today, having chatted last week about what it means to be a witch and the week before about what's missing from witchcraft, the Wiccan Rede was touched on last week. So I thought we could do a bit of a deep dive into that. So that's the subject for today, the Wiccan Rede. Do you follow it? Do you understand it? Do you use it? Do you not use it? If not, why not? And really, I guess, the ethics of it all. We'll have a look at it. Good morning, Karen. Yes, honey and lemon on the way. Yeah, the voice is going. Good morning, lucky fairy queen. Good morning, Heather. Good morning, Susan from a blowy West Sussex. We're off to Sussex next week. We're going to Brighton next week for a jolly, Kitchen Witch jolly. Good morning, Kerry. And Ebony from a sunny and windy Llanelli. We haven't. It's wet out there. It's wet. Good morning, Xenia from a rainy and windy northern Germany. Having your coffee. Best place to be. Indoors with your coffee. Good morning, Christine. Awake early. Yeah, it was a bit noisy out there. It was a bit noisy out there last night. You had a cuppa and a chocolate bicky at 4 a.m. Yeah. Well, if you're up at 4 a.m, what else is there to do, really? Good morning, little Miss Nemo from an equally blowy Hull. Yeah, we've got a bit of a storm come across to us today, haven't we? Stay safe, people. Stay warm and safe indoors with your coffee and your chocolate biscuits. Don't warn Brighton that we're coming. Oh, I'm fairly sure Brighton will cope. It's a very special place, that's for sure. Although it's not actually had the three of us in full force before now. So, yeah, maybe. There you go. So, let's get started. Jane. Being a pick and mix witch, I use bits of the Rede, but then I'm not Wiccan. Think the "and it harm none" bit is the most important. Yes and no, I would say. We will get onto that. I think it is misunderstood quite a lot. I think it's misquoted quite a lot. Thank you very much. Oh, I get music.
Morning from the hand.
I get music with my honey and lemon. Thank you. Good morning, Angela, from an equally wet and windy Brittany. Yeah, I think that's the thing for today, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is very misunderstood, and I think that and harm none, it gets used as a disclaimer. I think it gets used as an excuse. I'm going to be really rude to you, but and harm none. I wanted to sort of take a bit of a dive into it, actually, because the Wiccan Rede is, well, here, look, the full version. It's quite long. That is that way. It's quite long. It's not just, these 8 words, the Rede fulfill, and ye harm none, do what you will. That's the last 2 lines of that huge Rede being the old word for law, apparently. So I thought we could have a look at it and see what the rest of it's all about. I did used to use it. I did used to use it when I first started, because my initial training was in Wicca. I think those last 2 lines, harm none, do what you will, are a good guideline. I think it is a bit broader than a lot of people take it for. We can still protect ourselves. We are still allowed to protect ourselves. So I think it's got a broader meaning. And I think if you are going to use it, you definitely need to read and digest the whole of the Wiccan Rede, the whole full version. And actually, I did a little bit of pinging about this morning. There are variations on it, and there are shorter versions. I found another one here that is just that length. So I think people seem to pick and mix or be selective about which lines they want to work with. But when you look into it, it is quite interesting. There are variations as to where it came from originally. There are different stories. It was published in the Green Egg magazine, apparently. First published in the Green Egg magazine in 1975 by Lady Gwen Thompson. But looking at, picked a book off the shelf to see, there are stories that it came from Gerald Gardner. He claimed the creed came from the words of King Powsol. Likely that the reed may have been borrowed from Crowley's Law of Thelema. Gathered from European magical lodges popular in the late 18th and early 1900s. They apparently got it from ancient Egyptian magical texts. There is debate about all of this. Some historians date the information back to 1600 BC, some older. There's a load of, was it Doreen? Lots of arguments as to where it actually originated from. Do we actually know? I have no idea. Let's have a look. Oh, lots of comments. Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Trudy. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Annette. Little Miss Nemo. Tend to stick with the last two lines as my ultimate commandment, along with not maltreating elder. Yeah, you don't want to mess with the grandmother elder. Really don't want to mess with that. Xenia, not Wiccan, but know the Wiccan Rede. The threefold law, for example, as I understood, comes from Gardner's novel High Magic's 8. It says, if someone does you good, do good 3 times of that. There are variations on the threefold law as well. It's all a bit confusing, to be honest. I have the full read somewhere and probably half as much on the wall. Remember looking through it all and going, wow, people are only following the last 2 lines. It's massive. Yeah, pretty much. So I thought it'd be interesting to sort of break it down. So it does begin with, bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust, which kind of makes sense. Here's the rule of, it's interesting. Some have bide within the law you must. Some have bide the Wiccan law. Interesting. It's straightforward, isn't it? Basically, you've got a coven, you've got a group, you've got a circle of people that you trust, whether it is family, whether it's friends, whether it's your coven. It's about, trusting everyone, I think, within that group. Seems fairly straightforward to me, but there may be a deeper meaning to it. So the second line is, again, slightly different. Longer version. Live you must and let to live. Fairly take and fairly give. Shorter version. Live and let live. Fairly take and fairly give. I think this is kind of, don't take more than you need, really. Know your needs, know what you need. Don't take that which isn't necessary. Give your resources, share your resources. Seems like a fairly, decent kind of statement. The next lines, again, slightly different. I read the longer version. For tread the circle thrice about to keep unwelcome spirits out. To bind the spell well every time, let the spell be said in rhyme. I don't think this is about morality or actions, or this is about magical stuff. Cast your circle properly, make sure you're raising energy properly, be mindful of the words that you use. I think it's just a magical kind of nod, really. And then we get to, again, slightly different depending on what version you look at. Light of eye and soft of touch, speak you little, listen much. Which is, don't be judgmental. Don't judge others. When you interact with other people, be kind to them, be gentle, guide them if necessary, don't push them into things they don't want to do, listen to them. That's just about being a decent person, I think. And actually, in the shorter versions, the next line is missed out, which is, honour the old ones in deed and name, let love and light be our guides again. That seems to be in the full one, but gets shortened in some of the other ones, or removed completely. But honour the old ones indeed in name, let love and light be our guides again. That speaks to faith to me, that speaks to religion of the old ones, which is maybe why it's left out of some of the versions. And then the next couple of lines, dear seal go by the waxing moon, chanting out the joyful tune. Widdershins go when the moon doth wane, and the werewolf howls by the dread wolf bane. This has got to be magic again, hasn't it? It is about deer seal going clockwise around the circle, anti-clockwise on the waning moon, clockwise on the waxing moon. Werewolves, not sure where werewolves come into it. Wolfsbane is a poisonous plant, so I'm not sure really what that why that comes into it. Maybe because it's the waning moon and it's releasing, getting rid of stuff. Not sure about that one. Next line, when the lady's moon is new, kiss the hand to her times two. There is a salute. There is a kiss salute with your first two fingers, basically kissing to the moon. It is quite a nice thing to do, blowing two kisses at the moon. It is a connection with the moon and the magic of the moon, I think. The next line's about the moon as well. When the moon rides at her peak, then your heart's desire seek. That's got to be about working with the power of the full moon, hasn't it? I think full moon is time for big magic. Then we have 4 lines really that come together. Heed the north wind's mighty gale, lock the door and trim the sail. When the wind blows from the east, expect the new and set the feast. When the wind comes from the south, love would kiss you on the mouth. When the wind whispers from the west, all hearts will find peace and rest. It's a reference to the 4 quarters. And the elements and the part that they play within magic. It just, for me, it describes the elements really well. It puts a feeling and a characteristic to all of the 4 elements, which I quite like. Now, the next few lines actually often get shortened completely. You get the 9 woods in the cauldron go, burn them fast and burn them slow. I'll start with that one. The 9 woods is an old chant. It's an old magical spell using 9 different woods to put onto the bonfire for magical purpose. So that's why that's in there. There's then several other lines that often get missed out in the shorter versions. We've got birch in the fire goes to represent what the lady knows. Oak in the forest towers with might. In the fire it brings the gods' insight. Rowan is a tree of power causing life and magic to flower. Willows at the waterside stand ready to help us to the summer land. Hawthorn is burned to purify and to draw fairy to your eye. Hazel, the tree of wisdom and learning, adds its strength to the bright fire burning. White are the flowers of apple trees that bring us fruits of fertility. Grapes grow upon the vine, giving us both joy and wine. Fir does mark the evergreen to represent immortality seen. And then we finish up. Those lines are quite often missed out of the shorter version, and then it goes straight to the elder. Elder is the lady's tree, burn it not or cursed you'll be. Be very mindful of the spirit of the elder. She's a feisty old bint. It's a shame, actually, that the other trees get missed out of the shorter versions, but it is all about the magic of the 9 woods. which is quite an ancient thing, and it's all about the different characteristics and magical purpose of each of the woods, because wood is very important. Trees are very important for magical purpose. And then we go on to just looking at huge other bits missed out as well. Okay, so we got a few more lines. So 4 times the major Sabbaths mark in the light and in the dark. As the old year starts to wane, the new begins is now Samhain. When the time for Imbolc shows, watch for flowers through the snows. When the wheel begins to turn, soon the Beltane fires will burn. As the wheel turns to Lammas, night power is brought to magic rite. 4 times the minor Sabbaths fall, use the sun to mark them all. When the wheel has turned to Yule, light the log the horned one rules. In the spring, when night equals day, time for Ostara to come our way. When the sun has reached its height, time for oak and holly to fight. Harvesting comes to one and all when the autumn equinox does fall. Heed the flower, bush and tree, by the lady blessed you'll be. So a lot of those lines get missed out again in the shorter versions. It's all about the Sabbaths. It's the wheel of the year, which kind of makes sense. That last line, heed the flower, bush and tree, by the lady blessed you'll be, I think talks of the spirit of all the plants, the spirit of the flowers, the plants, the trees, and working magic with them. My interpretation. Then we go on to where the rippling waters go, cast a stone, the truth you'll know. I think that is about the ripples that you put out there. When you drop a stone into water, the ripples spread outwards. And I think that's about your words, your actions, and how you are in the world. Whatever you say and do sends out ripples. Then when you have and hold a need, hearken not to others' greed. That's a bit more of a tricky one. I think for me, it speaks about being a decent person again, and not being manipulated by other people, not being drawn into the area of greed, really, for whatever purpose. Being a decent person. Then with a fool no season spend, or be counted as his friend. That's a weird one. Does it suggest that we try and avoid people that are foolish, maybe? I think maybe I have seen the suggestion that it is about avoiding toxic people and toxic relationships, which kind of makes sense. And then we have merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart, which is it. I think that's about telling people that what they mean to you. It's about being honest with people and letting them know that they're important to you. Then we get to the mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good, which is basically about what you put out there comes back to you. That's the be all and end all of that one. Then we get when misfortune is enow, wear the star upon your brow. I have no idea what that means. It could be that it is about wearing the pentagram, the pentacle with pride. It could be because it's about talking about blue on your eye. It could be about your third eye. It could be about your intuition. We probably never know for sure. And then be true in love. This you must do unless your love is false to you. Does that speak of partnerships, of relationships? Don't stick with someone that's not true. And then, of course, we finish up with these 8 words, the reed fulfill, and ye harm none, do what you will. There you go. It's actually quite an interesting read. There's a lot more to it than those last couple of lines. And I think if you are going to use that, particularly that last line, look at the whole thing and understand the whole thing. There's quite a lot of decent advice. There's quite a lot of interesting magical stuff in there. So it's definitely well worth looking at from a bigger perspective, I think. Do I work with it? Kind of. I do actually have the last two lines tattooed on my shoulder because I think it's a good guideline to live by. I think it's a good reminder to be a decent person, to be mindful of what you put out there. But I think the whole poem is actually poem, read, law, whatever you want to call it, I think is quite interesting. So I know there's lots of comments coming up there. So let me scroll back through. Scroll. Give me a second to catch up with them all. Right. Okie doke. Here we have. So, Karen, I'm aware of the Wiccan Rede from my early days on the path, but as I'm not Wiccan, I don't follow it religiously. Bits of it will be woven in, though, I suppose. Yes, I think we do find bits and pieces of it woven through all of the witchcraft pathway. Xenia, it's a whole long poem about the wheel of the year, circle casting, God and the goddess, and much. Yes, follow the Wiccan framework a lot, but I lean to shamanism and learn from nature and to Norse paganism. I think a lot of us do work with that basic Wiccan structure. I know I do because that was my original training, but even for rituals that we work, still use that Wiccan structure. So I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. Good morning, David. Everything comes from ancient Egyptian if you talk to some people, or Atlantis. Yeah, yes, or aliens, of course. Let's not forget the aliens. But yes, there was a lot of Wicca, particularly Golden Dawn, ceremonial magic came from ancient Egypt, because they worked with ceremonial magic. So I guess it kind of made sense. Okay, David, you're all on the very big telly, so no swearing. I don't swear anyway, so you're all right with me, David. Cannot count for the other lot. Ruby, strongly against harming anyone, but at the same time, I am not one for rules, preferring to act on intuition. Yeah, I think the idea of "and harm none" is a good one. Basically, let's all be decent people. What you put out there is what you get back. Don't be harmful to people. Don't be horrible to people. But I think I've mentioned it before. I used to use "and harm none" at the end of all my spell workings. In fact, you will probably find it in my first couple of books. To me, it was a kind of disclaimer. I'm working magic. I don't want it to go wrong. I don't want it to hurt anyone. So I'm going to put "and harm none" as the disclaimer on the bottom of the spell. The only thing is, does it restrict it? Roll forward a few years and I read something that someone had written, and it bing, made me think about things, and I thought, actually, maybe I am. Whatever magic you're working is going to affect someone. It is like the line in the Rede says, you're dropping a pebble in the stone and the ripples go outwards. You work that magic, so you drop that pebble in the stone and the ripples go out. When you are working magic, you are manipulating energy. It is going to affect someone somewhere along the line, even if you don't intend it to, and most of us don't intend it to. Manipulating that energy will affect someone somewhere. If you do a spell for a job interview and you get that job, someone else hasn't got that job. They've been affected. So it is about being mindful and respectful that when you're working magic, you are manipulating energy and you are putting that stuff out there that is going to affect someone somewhere along the line. So for me, it was a bit of a wake-up call that I was putting this "and harm none" disclaimer on the bottom of my spells, which may have been restricting the energy. Something to think about. Little Miss Nemo. Essentially be a good person, consider others. Don't be a bleep. Plus some folk, I can't read it because David's told us not to. And Wiccan custom throw in. Yeah, I think it's an interesting law to work with. Yeah. Xenia, my idea for perfect trust is being sensible. Trust your people that are trustworthy, but trust a snake or other dangerous animal to bite you because it's their nature. Yes, very wise words. Don't trust everyone but your people. Yeah, and I think that's the idea. The idea being that when you step into a circle, you are stepping into a circle of trust. And whether that's a magical circle, a family circle, or a friendship circle, yeah. Jane, the law of three is often expressed with a view to what we get back if we do good or bad. That implies that we must either be afraid of repercussions if we do bad or look forward to being rewarded when we do good. Interesting to hear it from the other side. I think it is. I think it is just a, and I think the three is a bit of I think it is about being a decent person, putting positive stuff out there, being nice to people, being decent to people. Do I expect to get all that back? No. I think it's about treating others as you would like to be treated yourself. It doesn't always happen because not everyone is thinking like that. And there are witches, there are magical practitioners, there are root workers that don't worry about the rule of three at all. They see, as long as they take responsibility for their spell working, they will quite happily curse, hex, or whatever, deeming it that the spell is worthy, deeming it that what they are doing is a good thing. I think so long as you take responsibility for that, then it's absolutely your call. But the law of three says that things come back to you three times. I think if you are learning a lesson, sometimes it's taken me more than three times for it to come back to me to learn it. I think it is about treating others as you would want to be treated yourself. It doesn't normally happen. It doesn't always happen that they will do that, but it's a good starting point. Sephora. So far, it sounds like basic common sense and being a half-decent human being. Yes, exactly. I've got weird things coming up on my screen now. So I prefer rules as they are laid down for protection of others in theory. Don't hold with breaking rules, only amending them. Yes, yeah, I do that. Jane, the don't judge people. It is also part of the secular Franciscan rule. Okay, I think there are bits that have been taken from other pathways, other practices. The bit merry meet, merry part, merry meet again is used in Masonic things. So I think there's quite a lot of crossovers and bits, not necessarily stolen, but perhaps borrowed from other things. Miss Nemo, hadn't heard of the kissing custom. Rather like that, must remember it. Yes, it is. Going backwards to it. Here we are. When the lady's moon is new, kiss the hand to her ×2. And it's 2 fingers too. Not that kind of 2 fingers. You kiss your fingers and go up to the moon, and you do that twice. That's quite nice, isn't it? I quite like that. Good morning, Jackie. Jane, strange to find peace and rest when the wind's howling and gusting from the west. Yes, it certainly is. Certainly is today, anyway. Definitely a bit windy out there. Good morning, Tony. Emma, may not be Wiccan anymore, but I do enjoy listening to it all the same. I think it's interesting, and actually we do get as students further on in the course to study the sacred texts, because what we practice today, a huge amount of it came from Wicca. The basis of it came from Wicca, and I think it's interesting. And I think it's also interesting if you are only familiar with the Wiccan Rede in its do what you will, harm none form. I think you need to look at the whole thing, because as I've read it out this morning, there's actually some really interesting stuff in there, and there is some really nice and sensible stuff in there. I'm not Wiccan anymore, but I think it's an interesting read to work with. I think there's some really good stuff in there. We learn from all of this stuff, don't we? Xenia, where is a longer version to be found, please? I only have the shorter version. I found it online. If you type in Google Wiccan Rede full version, you will get it up. Little Miss Themo. Spending time with the fool, I'd say, indicates not falling in with the wrong crowd. Yes, that would make sense as well. With a fool, no season spend or be counted as his friend. Yep, that makes sense. Xenia, I think it's actually on the school forum somewhere too. Maria, a lot of it is common sense. It is very sensible stuff. Xenia, looks like a whole course of magic, the longer version. It does. It covers the circle casting, it covers the moon, it covers the Lord and Lady, it covers the 4 elements, it covers the magical trees, the Sabbaths, and basically not being a wolf. Yeah, see, that I said it more politely than that, David. Still basically means don't be a wolf. It's a nicer way of saying it. It is. And I think it is interesting to read it. And I think if you are within the witchcraft world, even if you aren't Wiccan, it bears a read. It really does, because it's an interesting thing. Good morning, Jackie. Hannah, I think this is the thing about paganism in general, as there are no set ethical rules. We must have strong morals, which we ourselves should keep in check. And I think that for me is why the read is quite a good guideline, because it is a basic, let's not be idiots, let's not be horrible to one another. Your own moral compass should absolutely keep you in check. That should be the first and foremost. Let's all be decent human beings. Yes, absolutely. I think it was a bit of a shock to me, actually. When I first came to paganism, I thought, this is going to be brilliant. Everyone loves the world. Everyone loves the land. Everyone loves all the animals. Everyone loves everything on it. Everyone's going to be lovely. What I forgot to take into account is that everyone is also a human being. And human beings aren't always lovely. It was a bit of a wake up. My take is harm none, but take no. I'm not allowed to swear. Harm none and take no poop. Jane, the Wiccan structure for rituals is more or less the same as the Catholic Mass. There's a lot of overlap. Gathering, cleansing, imparting a bit of knowledge, the great rite, communion, going forth, not at all dissimilar. It's not, is it? It's there is the incense, there is the cleansing, there's the purifying, there is the sharing of bread and wine. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, isn't there? I don't think that's just Roman Catholic. I think there's a lot of similarities with religious practices across the globe. Different cultures all doing very similar things. Let me Nemo. My mother made me aware of an old music hall number. Oh, the Irish were Egyptians long ago. Why that line was written, I don't know. But there's a tenuous truth in there relating to something. Well, a lot of people travelled, didn't they? So, we're all a bit pick and mix, aren't we? We're all a bit of a melting pot. Jane, I nearly forgot the offertory, which would be like making an offering or a libation. Yeah, I find it fascinating that there are so many similarities across the religions of practices and what we do. Emma, used to put an it harm none on my spells many years ago at the beginning, but something clicked with me. Don't know how or why, but something clicked. If that works for you, then absolutely do it. You've got to trust your intuition and how you work it. But for me, it was the realization that it was a little bit of it was stopping things from happening. But not obviously that I do wish to harm people physically or otherwise, because I don't. Well, I might have a little bit of a list of people I'd like to push off a cliff, but not that I'd actually do it. Because I was going to say, because we don't have any cliffs here, but we do. Hannah, this is actually why I don't work spells anymore. The moral dilemmas I felt I was facing when thinking of the impact was a bit overwhelming. With power comes a great responsibility. I do like that quote from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. And it is. I don't ever want to put anyone off working spells because it's part of what a witch does. But take responsibility for it. You are absolutely entitled to protect yourself, to protect your family, to work spells to do that. You are absolutely entitled to make your life more comfortable, make the life of others that you love more comfortable. Just take responsibility. Spell working is checks and balances. Spell working is about asking for things but giving things. You cannot keep doing this. I am going to go on my rant like I do. There's a lot of courses, workshops from spiritual folk, but not witches, that put out this. It's the full moon. Let's do a full moon manifesting workshop, ritual, whatever. And they will do this every full moon. And everyone asks for all the stuff that they want. But because there is no understanding of the whole practice of spell working, there is no gratitude. There's no balance. There is take, ask, but nothing to balance that scale. And that for me is wrong. That's not taking responsibility for what you're putting out there. If you're going to ask for something, then you need to give something in return. Checks and balances. My little rant there. Jane, I think the 3 of threefold is a ballpark figure. If you think of the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the planet can cause a typhoon on the other, it's about being mindful of consequences. I do. I don't think it's 3. The number is just it's just an idea, isn't it? Because it's not going to happen 3 times exactly. Yeah, it is just an idea. Good morning, Angela. Xenia, if someone is only a good person out of fear of punishment, they are not as good as they think they are. That's, it's an interesting way of looking at it, isn't it? No, you shouldn't think like that, should you, really? You as is Little Miss Nemo says, yep, do as you would be done by. Yeah, treat people how you would like to be treated yourself. Not because you have a fear of the threefold law smacking you on the head 3 times if you aren't. It's just about, I'd like to be a decent human being because I'd like other people to be. Yeah. Maria. Depends on the spell and your mindset. It does. When you are working magic, it's your intent and it's your will behind it. Karen, maybe it comes back to you from 3 directions rather than just 3 times, like from yourself, the gods, and the place you sent the good or the bad. That's an interesting view. That would work. Yeah. Hannah, true. I was overthinking the simplest of spells. And I think it is. I think when you do first start working with spells, it can be terrifying. I remember it very well. I fluctuated from feeling really stupid, prancing about my dining room with a wand, and thinking, this is scary. But start with the small stuff. Start with sending out good, positive energy to the planet. Start with stuff that is going to do some good, but not, specific. It's experience. Good spell working comes from experience. The only way you're actually going to get better at it and more comfortable with it is to keep practicing, keep working with it. But you've got to be comfortable doing it. David, I remember one witch suggested the rule of 3 meant you're supposed to respond to attacks with a furious revenge. Okay, so I said that just Chicago way from the film The Untouchables, isn't it? I think attacks they're individual. I think each situation would have to be looked at on a unique basis. Are you allowed to defend yourself? Abso-blimmin-lutely. I think some people do see the and harm none, meaning that you can't defend yourself. You absolutely can. You can defend yourself, you can protect yourself. But it doesn't mean that you have to do that by attacking back. You can defend, you can protect. Because otherwise you're going around in circles, aren't you? You're doing the whole ping pong hex thing. Ping pong hexing. Yeah, it's a thing. Christine, take on some of the rules, but it all depends on the mood of the day and the spell. I think it has got to be taken in on an individual basis, yeah. Little Miss Nemo. The law of three is a reference to karma, which is a universal observation and not just a Buddhist idea, I think. I have heard that. I've also heard people saying that karma and the rule of three are different. I don't know. What do people think about that? I do tend to think they're slightly different. I think of karma as being the universe doing its thing. Quite often, if I've had an issue, rather than do any kind of hexing, cursing, deflecting stuff back, I have just asked the universe to deal with it. And it does tend to do so. For me, that is perhaps more about other people. So I put it out there that the universe deals with how the other people are behaving. The law of three, I tend to find more lessons for myself. I don't know. What does anybody think about that? There's no right or wrong here. I'm just scrolling through these. Miss Nemo. Is there a branch class or tree level that concentrates on the read in its entirety? There is a level, I think it's in Hawthorne, that deals with the read, and it deals with some of the other, for want of a better word, famous sacred texts, like the Charge of the Goddess and that kind of thing, where it takes you into them in a deeper way. So yes, there is a lesson on it collectively, but I think it's in Hawthorne. David, I also love the fact we can have a debate on the read. These things should have levels. Yes, absolutely. And I think actually it was said last week how nice it was that we can discuss some of these things, which might be a little bit more like last week, what being a witch means. There is no right or wrong here as far as I'm concerned. And I think everyone here is pretty much the same. We've all got different views. We've all got different ideas about it. And that is absolutely brilliant. We don't have to argue about it. We don't have to disagree about it. We can all put our ideas forward and think, actually, that's interesting, or hadn't thought of it like that. And that, yes, that's absolutely how it should be as far as I'm concerned. I think going to those group course things at Treadmill's put me off of Wicca because a couple of them were fake and as acting all hairy fairy. Now I've got an image of hairy fairies. Treadwell's is a fabulous bookstore run by a very lovely lady. But there are courses and events out there that are run by people that are very blinkered on their ideas of things. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if that's your pathway, then brilliant. Doesn't mean I have to follow it. We're all different. We all work with things in different ways. Xenia, I would do magically what I would do in the material world. Interesting. Yes, I won't ever punch anyone in the face just because I don't like them. Sometimes we think it though, don't we? Is that just me? But if someone seriously harms me, I take action to protect my life and my home. Yes, absolutely. Even if they're being affected negatively and I don't care at all, they shouldn't have attacked. Yes, I think you are absolutely within your right to protect and defend yourself. Absolutely. I do sometimes think I want to punch people in the face, but I don't actually do it. Hannah, yes, I was rather deluded when I first came to paganism. Yeah, I think it's a thing, isn't it? It's like you think, oh, this is going to be lovely. They're all earth-loving, tree-hugging, beautiful, happy people. People are people, whatever faith they are. Some nice, some not. Yes, absolutely. And I think you do, have to be mindful of that. Just generally. Harm none is a bit of a lie. I think it is. I think it's used these days as a disclaimer. I think it's used as an excuse. I think it is used as a cover-all. Doesn't matter what I say. If I put harm none on the end of it, then it's not rude or insulting or argumentative or judgmental. That's the problem with it, I think. I think it is just about being mindful of how you treat other people. And not just people, the planet and animals as well. I think that goes into it. It's just how you perceive it, I think. This is why we don't upset Rachel near cliffs. No, not near cliffs. I do have a list. Little Miss Nemo, following on from what Jane was saying about crossover, what I like about Christian worship is the accompaniment of the wealth of hymnody and all that lovely choral music. Oh, yeah, I love a bit of that. We don't have that. We have pagan music, don't we? We do have some fabulous pagan musicians, but yeah, we don't. We have chants, I guess, but yeah, not that kind of. Yeah, I love a bit of hymn. Love a bit of hymn. I love a bit of sing song. I spent 6 years in a Baptist church as a teenager. They love a bit of Christian sing song. There was a pagan choir based in Leeds, which would have been interesting. I think it was disbanded. That's a shame. Well, not a shame for me because I can't sing to save my life, but definitely consequences is an idea that's not taught as rigorously as it should be. Yeah, I think we live in a society where no one takes responsibility for things. It is this whole it's not my fault, I'm going to sue someone else for it kind of idea. We don't take responsibility for our own actions. And we absolutely should. There should be much, much more of that. Definitely. Yeah, it is consequences. You're right. Xenia, I'm thanking the spirits and deities so often that they keep telling me I should also take credit for myself. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 3 is a magic number. I wonder whether that is. It was called the threefold law because 3 is such a magical number. Could be, couldn't it? Could be. Nothing wrong with that attitude. It's a wise stance. Spells should be cast without thought. I think it is. Spell casting is an art, and it is something that you need to practice to become experienced at. Claire, life in general can be full of unintended consequences. Can't avoid it, really. Yes. Well, that's the universe, isn't it? As I have discovered, the universe likes to be a total git sometimes. And I think particularly when you are working spells or putting out wishes to the moon or the gods or whoever, what you want isn't always what you need. And in my experience, the universe quite often steps in to change the course of things because the universe knows what you need. Yeah. Jalala, I think it can be disappointing when you think you've found your tribe only to find you don't fit in there either. As you said, people are human and have their own stuff and their own experiences. As humans, we seek to belong. We do, don't we? I see it in a lot of all communities, and I found it useful to have little expectation. It's a sad reality. I think it is difficult. We've been very, very lucky with Kitchen Witch over the years. The actual coven was started nearly 14 years ago now. We've had a few bumps in the road, but generally the group is lovely and people have found other friendships within it. From my personal point of view, my close circle has changed over the years. Do some of these things have a shelf life? Maybe you find your tribe and then people change, like relationships, any relationship, marriages, partnerships. You do change as you get older. Sometimes you grow together and grow and accept the changes together. Sometimes you just grow apart. Is it perhaps a normal fluid thing that happens over time? occasionally. I think close relationships, friendships are very special but quite rare. And sometimes they take a long time. I know people that have still got friendships that they had at school like 30, 40 years later. I don't have that. I had some lovely friends at school, but I guess because I moved about a bit, because I'm quite high maintenance, that didn't happen. I am very, very blessed to have Heather and Ness in my life. We work together. Pretty sure we share a brain. I am very blessed that Pete and I have been together coming up for 34 years now. We're not the same people that we were when we first met. I was a lot thinner for a start. Thankfully, we've grown together rather than in different ways. Things change, don't they? But I know what you mean. It can be really disappointing. But I think perhaps is it because it's fluid and because we do change as people over time. Miss Nemo, like the idea of 3 directions. Yes, that makes sense, doesn't it? It does make sense. David, unless it's an Audi driver who's just cut you up, blast that guy into space. Well, you know, he might be having a bad day too. Jane. Oh, didn't click it. There we go. A lot of my sticking with the Catholic faith for so long was down to fear of the bogeyman getting me if I stopped. But you know, the bogeyman is an invention, don't you? Bogeyman is a manifestation of your own fears. He's not real. He is a bogeyman. But yes, absolutely. No spiritual path should be based on fear. No. Paganism, witchcraft is so liberating. It can be. It absolutely can be. Amazon drivers are worse. But let's be honest, if the supermarket delivery drivers and the Amazon drivers weren't out there, we'd have to leave our houses far more. So I'm very thankful for them. Xenia, I think we share some experiences. Yeah, I think we do. We do. Sarah, I struggle with spell work. I'm very careful as you never know how the universe will send you the things you ask for. I found that if I asked for help, it wouldn't come in the way I expected. Spells have a very, very common thing in that they work in unexpected ways. It is that old adage of being careful what you wish for. But I think it's also about trusting that the universe does know best for us. Again, with spell work, doing it, keeping a record of it, keeping a record of what worked, what didn't work, and how you did it, when you did it, what you used. All very, very useful to hone your spell work. Little Miss Nemo, consequences should hold us in check and make us think much before we take action. Yeah, that's definitely a general life thing, isn't it, for sure? Maria, karma could come back tenfold, even depends. I think it is that universal thing of life lessons, isn't it? I know I've had periods where I've just, universe, no more lessons, please. Please stop sending me the lessons because it's too much. Sarah, really wanted to sort my house out. We were then flooded. I was forced to sort everything out. It is. Be careful what you wish for. Yes, it is. And that's a very, very practical example of it. Yeah, it is. Be mindful. It's also bearing in mind that actually sometimes stuff just happens. Not everything is a sign from the universe. Not everything is a warning from the gods. Not everything needs to have omen or superstition attached to it. Sometimes stuff happens. Stuff floods because there's an old pipe. The roof leaks because the wind took a tile off. Sometimes stuff does just happen. I think it's important to remember that as well. So that we go into an action thought with as full an awareness as possible. Yeah, it's that whole being sensible and mindful thing, isn't it? Jane, some of those taking the lead had some sort of agenda and were very inflexible when it came to our input. Some were lovely, caring and sharing. Some were more, it's my way or the highway. I think that's general, isn't it? In a lot of pathways, when you are teaching, when you are running workshops, when you are putting your idea across there. I think perhaps it takes a certain type of character, a certain type of personality to run something, to organize something, to be a high priestess, a high priest, to be the facilitator. And usually part of that involves a bit of self-confidence. Sometimes people take on that role because they like the power. And it happens. I've seen it happen. It does happen. But I think it is. Some people do believe that their pathway is the only way. It's a thing. Sadly, it's a thing. Little Miss Nemo, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's ox. I don't think any of my neighbours have oxes. We have very small gardens. If they had a pig or a goat, I might covet it. Similarities again, isn't it? Similarities. Heather, discussion and learning from each other leads to growth and progress. Absolutely, blimmin' lootly, yes. Definitely. That's why Heather's on our team. Very wise. Sephora, hairy fairies, werewolves, wolfsbane. I am not going to be able to get the image of hairy fairies out of my head now. That's so yeah. Our own immune system literally kills millions of beings every day. Yeah, it does. That's quite a horrific thought, isn't it? Jane, I think it's fair to say the events Mary and I were talking about were not actually organised by Treadwell's, because we would like to say Treadwell's is very lovely. The shop is brilliant. The lady, Christina, that runs it is absolutely fabulous. They're an outside group renting space there. There you go. But you'll get it. You will get it. Because humans are involved. Angela, I've loved the chats over the last few weeks. Found them really interesting, informative. Love them all, but some more poignant than others. Is the charge of the goddess suitable for a chat one week? That would be interesting. Could work our way through them, couldn't we? We've had some really grown-up chats this year. It's a little bit scary that, being a bit grown-up about stuff. Yeah, charge of the goddess would be interesting. There's a charge of the god as well. That's, balance. Karen, we have lots of drums. We do have lots of drums. Yes, we do like a bit of drumming, don't we? Jane, I've noticed that all the Wiccan chants seem to have the same tune, juggled around a bit to suit the words. I know a few of them, but not many of them that I use, really. David, I take the and harm none as whatever you do, be kind. Well, the doctor is wise. The doctor is obviously very wise. But yes, I would say that is a very good translation of it. Where whatever you do, be kind. Sarah, teacher at school told my daughter that witches do dark magic. Oh, yeah. Had to explain to her it's not witches, it's about what sort of human being you are. It is that whole Hollywood TV thing, isn't it? That witches dabble in the dark stuff. And well, we do, really. I think witches, if you work witchcraft, you are working with the light and the dark. It is about understanding the balance between the two. You have to have an appreciation of the light to understand the dark and vice versa. It's more grey magic, really, isn't it? But there are witches that work with curses, hexes, and the like. That has to be their own decision. It will depend on what type of person you are, absolutely. Miss Nemo, there is the 3-in-1 that. See, now that just sounds like a washing powder. Which is a powerful theological and mystical notion. Goddess threeness isn't the same theology, but it holds the same idea of the multiple. Yes. You will see it. You do see it, don't you? The Trinity idea as well runs through various religions as well. And of course, the triple goddess is a whole other thing as well, and not necessarily what we think it is either. It's a huge, huge subject. Right, let's whiz through these last ones because we're at time already. Not Wiccan, but much of my early path was, I think of the reader's guidelines, things to consider rather than strict rules. Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it, really. The Trinity. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. Yes. Jane, hand fasting is a great idea. Makes allowances when people grow apart. Pretty rare for partners to be soulmates as well. Hand fasting was originally for a year and a day. You could kind of test run it, which is perhaps quite a good idea. Hi, Jodie. Little Miss Nemo. Faith and fear. There's a lot of fear in the Bible, which is annoying. In some parts of it, yes. We should respect the gods, work with them, not fear them, and be under their thumb. Yeah, it's a different way of looking at things, isn't it? It is a different way of looking at things. Let's bear in mind that the Bible's been written and rewritten and shuffled about and, messed about with. Heather, we do share a brain, which is constantly pinging plans and new ideas and shenanigans. Yes, absolutely. And I think as well, hopefully, respect. I think any relationships are about respect for each other and support for each other too. When we all have bad days, I find myself apologising for being grumpy, but the girls understand. She says, hopefully. But we do like the shenanigans, of course. That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger, or words to that effect. These things are sent to try us. Another one. And the other one, if the gods didn't think you could handle it, they wouldn't send it your way. That's another one too. Life lessons, eh? Not everything bad that happens is a result of karma or threefold things. Some of it is just other people being mean to us for their own reasons. You put humans in the mix and it messes it all up. Miss Nemo, too old and knackered for more lessons from the universe. Sometimes they are a bit relentless, aren't they? May I please now rest on my laurels and have a break? Yes. Laurels is good. Christine, trying to it on my brooch. Is it a man with a crazy hair or a squid? It's an ammonite. Let's get that off there. Yeah, it's an ammonite. Ooh, get that up near the camera. It's an ammonite with it is a real ammonite piece with squid bits. Squid bits. Like squid bits. I want a goat. Yeah, we do. We should get a kitchen witch goat. Definitely get a kitchen witch goat. As to me being white, you are wise. We work as a triad, Heather, Ness, and myself. Heather is the one that always sees things from a slightly different perspective. That's what makes it work. Xenia, as for sometimes stuff happens, I then remember the hermetic law of circles. Good times happen, bad times happen. Bad times are not always a lesson or a spell coming back or a punishment by the universe. Definitely. Yes, agree with that. Remembering the cyclic nature helps me to think that nothing lasts. Also, bad times not. Yep. And what else have I overcome? We are witches, not superstitious peasants. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, not keen on drumming. Oh, I love a drum. Right, let's get these last ones in, then we will have to finish up. Okay, David. People have a strange idea of karma. It's not a reward thing. No, isn't that interesting? It's not a reward thing. You don't get bad things happen to you if you do bad things or good things for being nice. The universe is seen as having a neutral stance, Hinduism. The idea is to have no karma at all, and that frees you from the wheel of life, death, rebirth. Interesting. This is where I think karma does it is different to the rule of three, to the threefold law. I think it is a different thing, isn't it? Where's the mention of food? Where's the mention of cake? What have our conversations turned into? They are a bit grown up, aren't they? Well, I had quite a stressful day yesterday, Emma, so instead of making dinner, which I was supposed to be doing, I made 3 lots of cake. I made pineapple upside down cake, blueberry crumble cake, and chocolate cookie things. So yeah, there you go. There's the food for today. Don't like the ritual drummers. I love it. But that's just that is us being different people, isn't it? You know, everyone's different. Everyone is different. I'm being reminded to tell you about stuff. So interesting talk today. Thank you so much for that. Fascinating thing to cover. There's stuff I need to tell you. So triad readings. Okay, so Heather Ness and myself will be at Raw Eden on the 8th of February. We're doing in-person readings during the day, and then we are running a lithomancy workshop at Raw Eden. We will be creating and blessing your own lithomancy set and then connecting with it and showing you how to read with it. Great fun. WitchCon online is Sunday the 9th of February. It's actually that whole weekend, but my talk's on the Sunday at 4:30. Have a look at their website. What they're actually doing is very nice. If you have a look at the main WitchCon website to buy your ticket, if you look on the main website and find the presenter that you like the best, if you buy the ticket from their link or buy your presenter, us presenters get a little bit of money, which is very nice for them. I'm running a curative magic workshop online via the College of Psychic Studies on Saturday the 15th of February. We're going to be looking at magical workings for anxiety, stress, and all the rubbish stuff. And we have another free online Kitchen Witch ritual and workshop 2-hour one, Saturday 8th of March. We also have handmade spring equinox boxes, hoards, available on the Kitchen Witch website. They are limited. There are a handful left. And there's bunnies in there. Do have a look at our What's On events page on the new Kitchen Witch website. It's had a bit of a revamp. It's got some fabulous artwork on there now from Tom Brown, who did that for us. So the Kitchen Witch website's all new and sparkly and shiny and stuff. Yes, to bring back the dragons in the Bible. I'm going to read through these other messages in a minute. Thank you. We have gone way over time, so I need to get and do some work. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Do have a look at the Wiccan Rede, and I will catch you all next week.